Watching WTAE-TV in Pittsburgh.
There is an unseen power at work here. All of these rich, famous, and important people have had their lives manipulated over these last few days by some of the real power brokers here in Washington. Good evening. I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline. If you're into the power game, and that's what this city is about, it means a lot to be seen with the right people at the right places at the right time. Tonight, we'll focus on the Washington Power Dance, and we'll be joined by writer Sally Quinn, who's equally adroit at watching and playing the game, and by Chuck Conconi, who writes a column for the Washington Post, observing who's up, who's down, who's in, who's out.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
I'm convinced that it's all Cinderella's fault. She has distorted for all time what it means to go or not to go to the ball. The horrible prospect of having to stay home while others in the family go to the ball has become a classic definition of misery. Meanwhile, fairy godmothers have had to work overtime achieving happiness for those in their care by appropriately dressing, transporting, and gaining entry for them to the ball. This has been a rough week for fairy godmothers, but this is a news program, not a fairy tale. And the truth is that inaugural balls are, for the most part, huge disappointments and colossal bores. Most people do not believe that, of course, until they've gone to at least one. And even though there are 9 of them in progress tonight, there are so many people who took in the Cinderella story with their mother's milk that the pressure to go, coiffed by the right hairdresser, gowned by the right designer, is enormous. What it's all about, of course, is power. Or to put it in terms that Cinderella would understand, getting close to the prince. Here's more from Nightline correspondent Judd Rose.
Washington is a city of monuments. Monuments to liberty, monuments to democracy, monuments to history. And then there's the city itself, a monument to power.
What this town is about is power and nothing else. It's not about clothes, and it's not about money, and it's not about social position. It is about power and getting access to power.
I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
Today, George Bush became the 41st president of the United States, establishing himself as the ultimate power in this ultimate power town. And with almost a week of big events to celebrate the inauguration, you just couldn't turn around without walking into the path of
power, man. Power. Power people from all over the world. No city in the world could draw the power people. Power elite that will be here this week.
Duke Siebert should know. For 40 years, his restaurant's been the place for those who are hungry for power. This is where the movers rub elbows with the shakers. Right over there is Democratic big shot Bob Strauss. And that's commentator Eric Sevareid, savoring some morsel of wisdom. There's another media biggie, Hotting Carter. Hey, Hotting, sit down and explain to us just what a power lunch is anyway.
Power lunch is people looking around and making sure they know each other and saying we're all here. It must be a power lunch.
Breaking bread with VIPs is the name of the game, noontime and nighttime.
One night, inaugural 8 years ago, right during this week, I sat between Gary Hart and David Stockman at a dinner party, and they had never met each other. And I nearly got trampled to death. They were both so desperate to get to know each other and to talk to each other.
It's true, at inauguration time, the pursuit of power reaches an absolute fever pitch. Washingtonians are obsessed with jockeying for social position. For example, how many tickets did you get to the swearing in? And where were you sitting? What inaugural ball did you get invited to? And who got to party with the new president? Social status and reputations are at stake, and sometimes a whole lot more.
One of the things that drove Tip O'Neill most wild about Jimmy Carter was his difficulty in getting enough inaugural seats for his family. I mean, and he remembered that for a long time. Real stupid on the part of Carter not to make sure that his Democratic Speaker of the House had enough seats for the family.
Who really has clout? At inauguration time, it's hard to tell. Is it the cool blonde in the long limo? Well, no, this week in Washington, everyone has limos. So is it those with the special inaugural license plates? Wrong again. Anybody can get them. They sell for $50 each. You can order by mail. Well, obviously, the power people are the ones with the fancy inaugural invitations. Not exactly. They sent out 475,000, but only 75,000 got you into the big event. The rest are just souvenirs. So just who does have the muscle?
Everybody in this town during inaugural week either thinks they're somebody, is somebody, or is a special assistant to somebody who thinks they're somebody.
Ed Rollins was a special assistant to somebody who really was somebody. He owns what in Washington is called a power wall. What are some of your prized possessions up here?
Oh, I like my Nixon. I've had a very dear friendship with Nixon over the years. And obviously my pictures of Reagan are very meaningful to me.
You've got some Bush pictures, and you certainly have lots of Reagan, so what happens?
Well, my quail pictures will be up here next week.
Power isn't just who you know, but how you met them. Case in point, these inaugural VIPs, the crew of the World War II submarine Finback, who had a raucous reunion this week. In 1944, they rescued a young Navy pilot after his plane was shot down. Don Kohler pulled George Bush from the Pacific.
Somebody asked me a couple of days ago, do you remember what you said to him? No, I can't remember what I said, but I probably said welcome aboard. What else would you say?
Bush stayed on the Finback for a month, and he's remembered well.
That he had a most outstanding imitation of a bull elephant trumpeting. And he would entertain us in the wardroom, the officers' mess, with, and it would sort of go like this.
Bush entertained the Finback crew again this week with gifts and a private meeting, and today, prime seats at the parade.
We happened to be at the right place at the right time. Little did we know then who Bush was going to be.
Despite the bipartisan nature of the inauguration, there was still plenty of party politics today. For the power people, standing on the street to see the parade would be, well, Bush League.
Do we have time to have lunch together or something like that when you and I can chat?
This glittering party was at Washington's historic Willard Hotel.
This is the hot seat to be right now. I don't think any of these other buildings have a view like this, or food like this, or champagne like this.
On the other hand, as power people know, food and drink have almost nothing to do with Washington parties.
You don't go to parties to have fun in Washington. People want to be at parties where they can be near someone who's in power, not just so they can say they rub elbows.
Now that may sound sort of grim, but
for people who really enjoy the power game, that's fun. That is, the jockeying for position is fun, and the calculation. It's like playing chess, or it's like playing golf. That is the game. If you're in the game of politics, then the game of politics is fun.
It certainly was this week for George Bush. But it was the new president himself who, amid all the hoopla, remembered what all this is supposed to be about. So the last word on power goes to the most powerful man in the world.
Use power to help people. For we are given power not to advance our own purposes, nor to make a great show in the world, nor a name. There is but one just use of power, and it is to serve people.
We are live now at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, which is one of the most popular of the inaugural balls because that's where the Texans are partying, and Texas is George Bush's home state. But Vice President Dan Quayle has just arrived. He's right behind me speaking now, and the president himself was here just about an hour ago with his family and danced a foxtrot. So if you have a ticket to one of these balls tonight, believe me, you know you're powerful. Ted?
Very much, and we may take a look at one of those balls and what the vice president or the president is doing a little bit later in the program. But when we come back, we'll talk about who has power and how it gets used in Washington with two expert observers, writer Sally Quinn and Washington Post columnist Chuck Conconi.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by NutraSweet.
All week for Saturday, but you don't have to wait till Monday to get the weekend's news. Watch ABC's World News Saturday with Carol Simpson, because news doesn't stop on the weekend.
Well, there you see the Vice President and his lady dancing at one of the inaugural balls, even as we speak. That is at the Air and Space Museum here in Washington. Vice President Quayle has just made a few remarks to the guests there, who presumably will be joining him on the dance floor. I can't tell if he's up on a podium there or down on the dance floor with everyone else. All of Washington's most influential people are not out at the inaugural balls tonight, as witnessed one of our guests, Sally Quinn. She is a former writer for the Washington Post who not only won acclaim for her coverage of the Washington scene, but also married the boss, executive editor Ben Bradley, certainly a Washington power in his own right. Her most recent book is a novel, Regrets Only, that deals with power and lust in the Capitol. She joins us from her Georgetown home. Chuck Conconi has been writing the personalities column for the Washington Post for the past 5 years, a column in which many of Washington's most powerful figures would like to appear. He's joining us live from the inaugural ball underway tonight at the Sheraton Washington Hotel. But Sally, first of all, poor child, would no one take you to the ball tonight, or why are you sitting at home?
I think I got the best end of the deal here between me and Chuck.
You know, people are really going to think, Sally, that you and I are playing a little bit of sour grapes here when we say, glad we're not at the ball tonight. Can you explain why it is not fun in the sense that people usually think a ball should be fun?
Well, first of all, even if I had planned to go to the ball, now that you've asked me to stay home, I didn't have any choice. But it's not fun for many reasons. I mean, somebody said tonight that they hated the idea of going to the ball because then they'd have to leave early and everybody would be drunk in their limousines. And someone said, no, you'll never be drunk because you'll be standing in line for 2 hours to get a drink. And it's a mad crush. It's an absolute zoo. I have been to inaugural balls where I have gotten my clothes tattered, and I've literally worn combat boots. At one point, when I was the only pool reporter for Jimmy Carter during his inaugural, I went to all the balls that year, and I literally wore heavy boots under my evening dress. There's just nothing fun about it. The whole point is seeing the president, and the president comes zipping in and zipping out. You miss him most of the time because there are too many people and you can't see over him. And there's the whole point of being at a ball would be to proximity to power, or to be able to get a good drink, or have a dance, and it's impossible to do any of those three things.
Well, let's check out the power roster for a moment with Chuck Conconi. Chuck, tell us again, where are you? Which ball are you attending?
I'm at the Sheraton, Washington. There is nobody of any power here. Sally's right, and she's got good connections. She's sitting at home, and I'm here. As a matter of fact, they say there's 5,000 people here, and it feels more like 20,000 people. But there is some excitement here right now. Any minute now they expect the president to show up. He'll show up. He'll spend less than 10 minutes here, as the vice president did earlier in the evening. He'll do a little dance around the floor, and for most of the people here, it seems to be worth it.
Yeah, but now, Chuck, people have spent not just thousands of dollars, in some cases more than just a few $1,000s to get there, to rent the limousines, to buy the gown, to get the, you know, I mean, to do it. Who are these people? Why do they go?
These are people from out in America. I was talking to a couple earlier tonight from Omaha, Nebraska. He gave the trip to his wife as a Christmas present. She'd never been here, wanted to come here. He figured out they were doing it on a bare bones with dress, everything, airfare, meals. Came to about $3,500. $3,500 to $5,000 to come here for the inaugural. That's pretty tough money.
I'll tell you what, we'll save the best question for last, and that is whether you've had the chance to ask anyone, now that they have been, whether it was worth the price of admission. We're going to take a short break. We'll continue in just a moment.
The American Agenda, a vital nightly focus on the issues that matter most. Monday, family, child abuse. In Washington state, it has doubled in 10 years, but 2 successful programs make that state a model in prevention.
I feel great. I feel like a human being again.
Monday, watch ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Inauguration, and did an outstanding job.
Now, as Chuck Conconi told you a few minutes ago, the main reason that people come to these balls is to be at the place where the new president comes. And this is the 9th of the balls that President Bush has attended this evening. It's the last one. He's even sounding a little hoarse. Let's listen to what he has to say.
And I'm glad to see you all are still here and feel this sense of excitement. We are very grateful to you. It's been for Barbara and me and all our kids and grandchildren a wonderfully exciting day. And I would only say that it wouldn't have been possible without the support and the generosity of you people in this room and at all these other events. You've helped enormously in the political trenches and now in making this inauguration something very, very special, and I'm grateful to each and every one of you. And so thank you for what you've done. We're pleased and grateful. Don't worry about our housing. We were over at the White House for 2 hours, and boy, is it something special, I'll tell you. Unbelievable. Thank yous a million. Have a great time, and thanks for what you've done for all of us. Thank you very much.
I got to tell you, folks, the people who paid big bucks to get into this ball are not getting their money's worth. At least at the previous 8, the president did about 10 or 15 seconds with the First Lady where they danced a little bit and sort of set the mood for the rest of them. Apparently, he's all danced out for the evening. Now, Chuck, that's what they came for, right?
Yes, that is what they came for. And they didn't get much of it. He was here about 3 minutes, as I can figure it. But when the Quails were here earlier, this was the first one they came to. They actually had 2 dances around the room, and they seem to get that. Sally said earlier you can't get a drink. They're making money here tonight. I've never seen so many bars. It's so easy to get a drink, and it's not cheap. A Coke is $3, and you only get half a Coke.
Now, you see, Sally, if you'd only come to the ball, you would have had a chance to get any drink you wanted. That was the only thing that kept you away. I hope 4 years from now you're going to come. Let's analyze this for a moment, though. I mean, what is it that goes on here at these balls? Because there are a lot of powerful people that at least drift in and out. I mean, I know the Secretary of State was there. The President brings members of his cabinet there. But people don't really get access to them, do they? They don't get to sit and talk for a while.
No, I mean, they come in and out, and they, exactly as you say, they drift in and out. The point of these balls is for people from out of town. They're people who want a taste of Washington. They're people who've worked hard on the campaign and who feel that they're owed, who deserve a little special attention or deserve a little excitement. I don't mean to sound blasé about the inaugural balls, Ted, because I think they're great for people, and I think they're sort of like pain. You forget after a while what it's like. And the really fun part about going to an inaugural ball is to go back home and tell all your friends you were there and what
Sally,
it was like, and you saw the president.
You didn't even, you haven't even worked your way up to blasé yet. You're so far below blasé right now. Chuck, I promised I would ask you, and maybe you've had a chance to talk to somebody there. Do people feel that they've gotten what they came for? I don't mean their money's worth. Most of these people can afford the $3,500.
Most of the people I talk to are not disappointed. They're lining up to get photographs, paying $30 to get a picture of themselves and from the inaugural seal. They're all excited. They're going to take it home and hang it in the living room or the recreation room and say, I was in Washington. And there's a lot to that. You know, they're doing a big business on souvenirs here. And I asked one couple, I said, have you seen anybody important, anybody from your home state, Senator, Congressman? They said they hadn't seen anyone and they didn't care. The thing that Sally said, and she's so right, that you have to remember is this is not at all a typical Washington party. This is a special party for the people from out of town.
All right, one more point. We got to get off in about another 20 seconds. We've got one more item we want to put on. So, Sally, tell the people out there who believe that these parties go on into the wee hours of the night, what time does a Washington party normally get through?
About 10:30 or 11. Most people have to get up at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock and go to work. They don't have time for parties, staying up late at night, and they don't drink.
So the fact of the matter is that all those Cinderellas from out of town don't have a thing to worry about. They're going to be out of there before midnight, and none of those stretch limousines is going to turn back into a pumpkin. You're both
a delight. If you want glamour and excitement, stay home.
You got it. Okay, and it'll also ease the Washington traffic problem considerably, so it'll work out for both of us. There are still other paths to power and influence in Washington, and when we come back, we'll hear from a man who has gotten there by being funny, comedian Mark Russell. A new era has begun here tonight in Washington, and what better way to sign off on the old one than with a smile and a song. Here now to say goodbye to the Reagan years, comedian Mark Russell.
The end of the Reagan administration, 8 years, 2 terms. So I think it's appropriate to condense the 8 years, the 2 terms, into one song. The highs, the lows, the good and the bad, into one little song. In the beginning, those early scenes with jelly beans and James Watt's gaffes were good for laughs. Air Traffic Union he would bust, and then Al Haig would bite the dust.
As of now, I am in control here in the White House.
With taxes cut, it made his day. The voodoo plan was on its way. The deficit would be a hint, and Nancy's dishes cost a mint. Bitburg, he went to Bitburg. It was offensive, but it showed us the extent of Deaver's force. While back in Detroit and Pittsburgh, employment fell, but what the hell? They had a slogan, stay the course. The evil empire was found to be devoid of common ground. Although a thaw was worth a try, Russian premiers would usually die. A show of force was just the thing. The name Grenada had a ring.
Have you seen anybody with a gun around here?
It felt so good, he'd try again. Gaddafi's house caving in. Glasnost, and then came Glasnost, and a treaty which would help the world to breathe more easily. Then Nancy met with Raisa, and the sparks which flew between these two could set off World War III. He lost the Senate, it was close, along with one piece of his nose. Those cabinet naps were by design, cause Nancy said it's in your sign. With Robert Bork, the mood was hot. Douglas Ginsburg went to pot. The Contra plan, it went awry. Iran Gate was the reason why. Ollie, and then came Ollie, a tangled scheme which Ronnie Berry was aware of. He told us folly, the thing was folly. And William Casey can't defend himself for reasons obvious. So for the Reagans, give 8 cheers, 1 for each of these fun-filled years. It is a most historic hour. They stayed as long as Eisenhower. Comedians, cartoonists too. We'll miss them both. You know that's true. To make things up, there was no need, cause all we did was rip and read.
And that's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This is Nightline.
This has been a presentation of ABC News, where more Americans get their news than from any other source.
They are outlaws on the run. One white, one black, at each other's throats, and only one way to survive. Robert Urich and Carl Weathers are the defiant ones.
And wherever there's a burning mystery, George Siegel's got the perfect remedy.
Oh, Doc!
It's Murphy's Law, after the movie special Saturday.
Get a 10% premium interest rate for 90 days when you open a Pay More savings account. An incredible 10% bonus rate only from First Federal of Pittsburgh. Offer expires February 28th.
What makes you decide where to buy a new car or truck? The price. Not the gimmicks, not the come-ons. The best price. Plain and simple. I'm Fred Zeringer of AZ Chevrolet in Penn Hills, and we want to sell you your next car or truck. I make you this promise. No gimmicks, no come-ons, just the best price. Period. Don't buy until you talk to us. AZ Chevrolet, Penn Hills. We treat you like one of the family. I guarantee it.
The Twilight Zone, Sunday at 12 midnight on WTAE-TV.
Tonight on USA Today, it's called Ecstasy, the don't worry, be happy pill that can destroy your life. Branford Marsalis, a superstar saxophonist. It's not what presidents play, it's how they play it.